All right, so we'll bring this meeting to start. We'll do a roll call. Sean McDonald. I can see he's saying here, even though.
Yeah.
Thank you. Chris O'Neill,
Here.
Brian O'Hara,
Here.
Terry Ham.
Here.
I don't see Mary Waite, but I do see Steve Mello.
Here.
I didn't get anything from Mary saying she wasn't able to meet, so perhaps she'll just join us late. Also on the call is Sean McGinnis, Anthony Stavasano, Cody Haddad, and Melanie Perry. So yesterday I sent to you the clean copy from Anthony for this sections 1 and 2. I hope you were able to look at them and compare them to your notes. And we're going to go over those. And then before we get off, we don't have minutes to review, but I want to go over the dates that I sent you to see if those still work for you. So if we want to get started. So, I know we wanted a clean copy, but it's so, when we look at a clean copy, unless you have your
Compare.
old copy, you have no idea what they've done.
Mm.
The changes. So let me see if I can get out of this.
In doing this, I have my own, in going through and cleaning it up, I have my own notes as to which issues I think we still wanted to address. Some of them
Okay.
are listed in your, Heidi and I spoke for about an hour yesterday to go over her holds and for sections 1 and 2, just so we could be prepared for today. So that was helpful.
So right off the bat. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to see to make sure I was right off the bat. Go to page 3. Under the legislative branch, composition, section 2.2. First page, first sentence all the way between B and voters is the letter R that doesn't belong there.
It should be registered, I was thinking.
Yeah. I'm
Was
not
that
sure.
was,
Yeah,
was
Shall
All
intended-
we-
registered voters.
Yeah.
So I just want to, that's just right off the bat. Sorry. I
There were
know
a
it's
lot of red lines, so,
kind of anal, so.
no, that's fine. There were a ton of red lines, so that's helpful. I'm trying to find my last version with the red lines. I have about 47 versions of this charter right now on my computers.
Oh, we're a big town.
No, I mean,
were
just
you
in-
able to, were you able to separate out what was a substantial change versus like registered instead of that I don't think that's substantial, or if there were changes to update, were there, do you have a list of real changes to the charter in these 2 sections?
You sounding like an alien to me, Terry.
Yes, well, the thing is that
sorry.
any change we make is going to require us to present it to town meeting as a change.
Yeah.
Even the grammatical updating.
That I understand. Can people hear me?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this took me hours to do already.
I
So
think
no,
there's
I don't have that. I don't have which changes that were accepted were substantial. I went off my notes in our conversations about which ones you were okay with. A couple of them I confirmed with Heidi when we were talking yesterday. And this is
So we might not be
this
able
is
to
a
do this
Herculean
right.
task.
Yep.
To do that.
We might not be able to do this today, but when we met the last time, my thinking was in presenting to town meeting, could we say, here are changes that had to be updated because of law or grammatical changes or something. I know they have to vote on them, but just to say, here's the column of things that shouldn't take a lot of discussion, you know, they're kind of things that we had to do. But then on this side are things that really would change.
Right,
Um,
but to be
that- we
honestly,
might not be able
that's,
to do
that's a
that today,
huge,
Anthony.
that's a huge task. And before we do that, I want to make sure that we're even going to get to that point. Because there's been a lot of, I don't want to say division, but disagreement amongst this committee about what we're doing and what we're not doing. And so before I do that, I want to make sure we're all on the same page, that we are moving forward with this version of the charter.
Yeah, I know we had talked about having the Collins Center come in just to talk about best practices. So maybe after that meeting, we can kind of talk about how to present the changes. If we move forward with them, or maybe we don't, but like we talked about earlier, if we decide to move forward with them, then that could change a lot of what's been done. I guess you don't want to do a lot of the work and then have it change or not. So it's at least
Right.
having that discussion before we do anything significant. Put Anthony
Right.
to torture.
Yeah, so going to Sean's comment, I took out registered because voters, capital V is defined above. That's why registers was taken out. I found my red line comments. So
So may I make a
I will
suggestion?
delete the R. As opposed to reinsert registered.
May I make a suggestion about the process? You see what people think. I think maybe before we have the Collins Center folks come in, if we could take the holds list and give that to the Collins Center people and ask them whether they have any opinion based on what other towns are doing to make a report to us. And then proceed from there if we want to have a discussion about how many substantive changes we want to make and recommend to the town meeting.
Well, we would have to contract with them first.
Okay.
Yeah, and some of the holds are just, we can work through. Just questions I have. Some of it is just language that I needed to work on, or a couple questions I had. So I suggest we go through the holds that like Heidi and I did yesterday, and I think we can clear up some of them.
I don't think the Collins Center necessarily would be able to understand the holes.
No, they won't.
Because they're just those random statements that even Anthony as a member was struggling. You know, what did we mean by this?
Right. And that's why yesterday was very helpful. It'll hopefully speed up today's meeting.
So I'm trying to get. Okay, here we go. In the first article, if we just go down, the only thing we needed to change, we had question on 1-7A, which was the appointing authority. Our question.
And I can explain that too. So I've done a word search for appointing authority throughout the document. The only time it comes up with regard to employees would be under section 6.9 removals. Every other time it's used in the document, which honestly isn't that many. It comes up in filling of vacancies on appointed multiple member bodies. But when you get to that's in the 6-8, and then it only comes up again a second time and removals and suspensions. So in that section, it talks about or employee of the town that is not subject to the provisions of the Commonwealth Civil Service Law or covered by terms of the collective bargaining agreement that provides for a different method. And then it goes on to say they can be removed for a good cause. So I was thinking of just inserting that same language when we, under the definition of appointing authority, after employees, the language that's repeated from 6.9 of the town that is not subject to the provisions of the Commonwealth Civil Service Law or otherwise covered by collective bargaining agreement. So that would limit that definition of employees to those basically contract employees and employees at will. Does that make sense, Sean?
Yeah, that does.
One of our concerns was that employees would be already covered under their own contracts.
I just don't know who the appointing authority is for employees at will, like lifeguards. Who's the appointing authority for that? Is that the park board?
Parks and Recs.
Yes, yeah.
So do they hire them or does Tim hire them?
Well, what do you mean? Tim is Park and Recs.
Right, but I mean, like, for instance, who would be the appointing authority? Is it Tim or is it the board? Does the board have to approve their hire?
Tim, I don't think they all, no, I don't think they all go through the board.
Right. I mean, same in your office, your employees aren't subject to collective bargaining, so you hire them?
Yes.
Okay, so you, as the appointing authority, then you would be able to terminate your non-contract employees for good cause. You don't need to go to the select board to do that, right?
No, unless it says it,
So if Melanie were coming to your office today and spit on your desk, you could fire her?
yeah.
Don't do that, Melanie.
She's done that before, but I haven't fired her for that. I'm just looking under like, let me see here, under town administrator. Yeah. Oh, it says the hiring, supervision, and termination of department heads determined by town general bylaws, except for those department heads whose appointment is presently specially provided for under general or special law. That's under section 4.4 under town administrator.
Right, but that's just for department heads, right? I'm talking about
Oh,
there's only probably a handful of employees, right, that aren't covered by the collective
Oh.
bargaining agreement.
Yeah,
And so this is the only place it would, I think we could just insert that language in the charter, and I think that would be sufficient to remove that hold.
yeah, I agree.
So I will take care of that. Heidi, do you agree with that?
Next, yep, the next hold that we had in section 1 was 1-7H, which was on the second page. And we had not in the multiple member body shall mean any board, commission, committee, subcommittee, or other body consisting of 3 or more persons, whether elected, appointed, or otherwise constituted, but not including town meeting.
I'm sorry, I was fixing that. Could you say that again, Heidi?
Okay, on H, we had it's the last sentence, but not including town meeting. So town meeting is not part of a multiple member body. It stands
Right.
on its own.
Right, because it's the legislative body.
So that seems that we could just, Yes, I'm just sleeping. Would you be quiet?
I'm just looking at my red line version to see what my
Okay.
comments were.
Heading to the beach, so all will be quiet.
Can I go with her? Oh, that comment was included because that comment I had included because it said multiple member bodies, but not including select board or school committee. And I said that didn't make sense because select board and school committee are multiple member bodies. So rather than not including them in the definition, I say later on, we just exempt them from certain requirements of other multiple member bodies. And I know that comes up where there's a requirement that all multiple member bodies, I believe, is a requirement of the town meeting that they attend town meeting. And I still have that question. Do you want to have that include the school committee? So that's where that comment came in. So I resolved that by deleting, but not including select board or school committee. Because they are multiple member bodies. So I took that out of the exception for the definition of multiple member bodies. And then if
Okay.
there's something that you want to be required of all multiple member bodies, except for the select board or school committee, then we address that later in the charter, wherever that provision applies.
Mhm.
And so I do have notes as we go through it to say, do you want the school committee to be included in this? Or do you want to insert an exception? That's the place to insert the exception, not in the definition. So that's why that comment was in the charter, in the
Okay,
red line version.
is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
All right. I'm gonna move down then to K, which was select person. The word select person shall be used to describe a person, male or female, holding the office referred to in the general laws as selectman.
I was thinking about this and, you know, I don't know. I just think it should be member of the select board. It's just, it's innocuous. This is innocuous, member of the select board. You know, I don't know.
And I can fix that, Sean, because this term is only used once. It's only used once in section 3-2 subsection B. So I think we just delete the definition and I can reword that section so you don't need to use the word select persons.
Yeah,
I can
yeah,
say
yeah,
members of the
that's-
board. So that makes sense.
yeah. Yeah, it's just, you know, I don't want to, you know, I'm not old school. I don't like chairman, chairwoman. I don't like chairperson. It's just, you know,
Sure.
it's the chair. It's a
Mhm.
member. You know, that's just me. I don't know.
It's not necessary because it's only used once. So I can fix that when we get to that section. I just made a note to myself to fix that when we get to that section.
I'm kind of weird that way anyway, so.
So unless somebody jumps up here, I'm going to delete that definition.
The whole item.
Yes, select person.
So that was in
It
the.
seems
original-
odd to, it seems odd to include a definition that you don't use more than once.
Yeah, it's like planning board member. I don't do, you know, planning board person.
So that being
I don't know,
said,
Chris, what do you want? Do you want to be a member or a person?
Not actually sure at this point, but
Are
I
you,
agree.
are
I
you
agree with
either?
both of you. I think we can scrap it.
my other thing though is in the original document, K dealt with quorum. And I don't remember why we would have wanted that as a definition, quorum to be removed. I'm looking back.
Yeah.
It's the original. There's no quorum in here though, right? Definition.
Oh,
Because it's
Not
only
the
used,
first one.
it's only used twice. It's because it's only used twice and the relevant quorum requirement is outlined in where it's used elsewhere in the charter, so you don't need it in here.
okay.
Plus, we could always pass out a Merriam-Webster to anybody.
Then should we renumber? So if we are going to get rid of this now as K, then special law would become
Okay,
K.
everybody would move up an alphabet.
Yeah, I think we need, originally I was just gonna say deleted on next to that section, but I think we need to renumber them because we've added definitions as well. We added definition of the open meeting law. We added definition of special law. We added a definition of town meeting. So I think we need to renumber them because just putting deleted next to it is not gonna work.
I also think deleted will cause some question to people, you know,
I
what was,
agree with you.
why was it deleted? And then the only other thing in this area, which was an addition, was town website. And I was gonna ask Cody if you could look that up to see how websites and all like digital communication is addressed. Like, is there some,
Well, that might be something the Collins Center can help us with rather than, they would know like right away. So rather, if we have them.
There's gotta be charters out there that define town website. I actually yesterday after talking to Heidi, I put a question out on the listserv. How do people deal with that and the postings on the website? I didn't get any answers. I was hoping somebody who just recently redid a charter had some language we could just steal. But I didn't get a response.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because there's not a lot of physical paper newspapers to advertise in anymore. So it gets more and more difficult.
there's going to be one less because the Chronicle has announced that their final copy, I think, is in another week or two.
Yeah,
Hopefully they'll give me a return on some of my money. Don't count on it, though.
Don't count on that. So I guess, so if we could just keep a list, so I have then that we need definitions on the website, digital and social media, and then we'll talk about postings. Because I don't know if we want to waste the, I'm not mean waste, but I think we have to talk about what we want to use the Collins Center for, and it may not be defining this.
yeah.
Or maybe. So there were not any other holes or questions in section 1. And then in section 2, so we took out 2 point, we took out precincts, which was 2.3. So in my notes, we said omit that because it says, there it said at least once every 10 years, the select board assisted by the Board of Registers in accordance with the provisions of section 6 of chapter 54 of the general laws shall divide the territory of the town into not more than 10 convenient voting precincts, each of which shall contain as nearly as possible an equal number of residents of the town, but not more than 4,000 inhabitants. The precinct shall also be established as to consistent of compact and continuous territory to be bounded as far as possible by the center line known as streets or ways or by other well-defined limits. Their boundaries shall be reviewed and, if needed, wholly and partly revised by the districting board every 10 years in accordance with federal census. So we chose to eliminate that because, for one, the federal census, although we take it every 10 years, it's not turned around necessarily in that year to get us that level of information. And then the town clerk needs to look at it and make some determination. And later on, in election following revisions of precincts, which is how we changed 2.5, we deal with that. So if we can jump down to 2.5, 2.5 was just termed election previously. And we put election following revision of precincts, where it talks about how in a revision of precincts, everyone would need to run. Basically, the top vocators get a 3-year seat, the second, third get a 2-year seat, and the last third get a 1-year seat. And then it talked about, the confusing piece was talking about tied numbers, which in essence would be, that somehow would impact whether you're a 3-year, a 2nd year, or a 2-year seat.
Yeah, so on that one, and the reason we changed it to following revision of precincts is because it was initially drafted for the first version of the charter. And obviously that initial election has occurred. So we only need to do this now if there's a change of precincts. And I have a question, and I told Heidi I'm going to reach out to, I don't know, they're not always good about giving answers. But sometimes they will give you an answer. The Michelle Tessanari at the Secretary of State's office, who heads up the elections division. My only question was, is it legal to have, so say there are two members that would either be 2 years or 1 year, depending on a tie vote. Is it legal to have the other members, the other elected members decide which one gets that? That's what this says. So if Sean and I were to be tied and whoever has more votes gets to serve for 3 years versus 2 years, can the other elected members decide that? Or does that need to be decided in some other fashion? I don't know the answer to that. So I'm going to reach out to Michelle and see if she can give me a quick answer.
Hey,
I'm
can
not
I ask
overly
you-
concerned about this, to be perfectly honest with you, because it happens so seldom. And it's helped seldom in the fact that there's not very often redistricting, and it also happens seldom in that there would be a tie after that redistricting between two town meeting members. So it's not, you know, it might never become an issue. I just want to look into it to see if I can get an answer.
I think that happened in District 3 in the last 2 elections, because we received follow-up ballots saying, here are 6 people who tied for, they were write-in, I guess, and we had to select who we wanted from that list and send it back to Sarah. But I
This
had another
doesn't
question on the
even allow you to
precincts
do
itself.
that, Terry. This doesn't allow you to do that. This only allows you to do that if it's following redistricting to determine who serves a 2-year versus a 3-year, or a 1 year versus a 2 year. This provision does not let you determine who serves and who doesn't serve.
We can check with Sarah. I'm just saying I'm a voter in that district, and that's what I received in the mail. Request to select voters that there was a tie. So we'll have to follow up with Sarah. But can I ask a question on the section that was removed under precincts? It says their boundaries shall be reviewed and if need be wholly or partly revised by the districting board. Who's the districting board? That's the only thing I can see that would be missing, that would be questioned, I think.
Where's that? I don't see that.
The old section 2.3, it was called precincts. Heidi just read it.
I think that's the select board, because we just went through this with the last census, and Sarah had to modify 2 of the districts of the select board approved them. The state created the districts for the town, and the select board just approved them.
Okay. The precincts, the state creates the precincts?
Yeah, they created those for us from the census. Yes.
Because this looks
It's-
pretty specific that they're supposed to be looking at streets and figuring out, you know, making sure that it makes sense when you're doing, you think the state goes down to that level? Maybe they do, but
They did. Yeah. Yeah.
guys, okay.
Oh, also, Mass General Law 54, Section 6 controls in this area. So that's why we took it out.
Okay.
Division of towns into voting precincts is a section that says what happens. And so, and it specifically says in that section that it supersedes any charter. So
Oh.
it's no reason to have
I
it.
guess
in
we
the
really
charter.
don't need it then.
Yeah, and it does say the Board of Selectmen.
So,
Such division of a town into precinct shall be made by the Board of Selectmen, setting forth an official description, blah, blah, blah.
so in this section 2.5 or 2-5, election following revision of precincts, which now will become 2-4. The question is how this division happens. However, I'm just reading the old form Yeah, get this to Maurice. Oh. I'm just reading the old form and I think the first third of the voters.
Yeah, so if you're curious about how the precincts are done, just look at 54, section 6.
Okay. So the other thing that we got rid of in this paragraph, in this section was upon every revision of the precincts, we started with that. We put that paragraph first. Upon every revision of the precincts where the number of precincts is changed, the terms of office of all town meeting members from every precinct revised shall cease upon the election of their successors. The town clerk shall, after every election of town meeting members, forthwith notify each member by mail of his election. So we started it,
Yeah, that sentence was at the
That
end and I moved
paragraph.
it to the beginning.
yeah, which
It was
makes
the
more
second to
sense,
last sentence of the section.
because really that's the only time we're going to be doing this. Otherwise, it's just standard election of town meeting members.
Right. It's going to be once every 10 years. And even then, we might not be changing precincts every 10 years.
Right.
How many times, Sean, have we reduced precincts? Sean McDonald, do you remember? I only remember it once.
I think only once
They've
we
been
had,
No, they've been adjusted every 10 years. Little adjustments, some major ones. 10 years ago, they dropped it from 10 to, was it 10 years? No,
10 to 9, yeah,
that's what I 10.
yeah, it was 10 to 9. That was the major one. But they have made adjustments because I've been in precinct 1 when I first moved in to where I live now. Now I'm in precinct 4. I'm the northernmost tip of precinct 4.
and I've lived in the same place and I've been precinct 9 and now precinct 7. So that has changed. So
That's because of the drop.
the section in 2.6, which is vacancies, we had resignation of members, then forfeiture of office upon removal from town or precinct, which we didn't make any changes. And then it was just the filling of vacancies. So it midway into this paragraph, it says a notice specifying the object, time, and place of the meeting shall be mailed to every such member not less than 7 days before the time set for the meeting. The choice to fill any vacancy shall be written ballot, and a majority of votes cast shall be required for a choice. The chairman and clerk shall count the ballots and shall make a certificate of the choice and forthwith file with the same with the town clerk, together with the written acceptance of the member or members so chosen shall thereupon be deemed elected and qualified. But this section contradicts section 3-1B that states that the town clerk manages and conducts all election matters related to elections.
Yeah, I think I'm going to ask this question. If I'm going to call Michelle Tassinari, I will ask her this as well, because this one confused me. I'm not quite sure how this could be legal. Have we done this before? Does anybody know? Have we filled these vacancies this way?
I don't believe so, and that's
We've never
also a
done anything
question
midterm.
for Sarah. Because I know when we make the elections, if we have write-in candidates, we may get something. But every
Yep.
precinct currently does have vacancies.
Right, I don't ever remember. Again, I haven't been involved in
So-
the details of that process, but nobody's ever asked me about that. Hey, this goes back to my pet peeve. I know some of you on this board disagree with me, but you gotta reduce the number of town meeting members. I stand firm with that position. And the vacancies will be less of an issue.
And I think that we did discuss that
Every
in
year
a
it's getting worse.
separate section.
That's one maybe the Collins Center could help us with as well.
Hmm.
Their advice on that. I just remember sitting at meetings, waiting 15, 20 minutes for a quorum to show up, and a quorum is only the majority of those elected, not even the majority of those positions available. If we had that as a definition of quorum, there would be town meetings where we didn't even have a quorum.
I remember annual meetings generally don't have that problem. It's the specials that we used to have. Ever since we've gone to two biannual or twice a year meetings, the need for special town meetings outside of the annuals has been greatly reduced. There have been times when we had a special town meeting, we had to go 2 nights in a row before we got a quorum.
When was that?
That was in the middle of
Oh,
January, I believe, at one time.
One special, we had more people there than we do at the annuals.
Yeah.
It was about a recall, so that place was jamming.
but nowhere in the charter do we set a number.
What do you mean, do we set a number for what?
We don't set a number in this charter for town meeting members.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Right in the first
Yeah, right in
section,
the first section.
section 2-2, 390 members.
390 members.
I'm sorry, I missed that. So 20 when this was done in 2000, we had 10 precincts at that time. Now I'm looking at my thing, and there were 39 members per precinct.
Yep.
And now we're down to 9 precincts. And some precincts have 42 to 45 members. So it's also not consistent. It's not a
Right,
set.
well, 390 divides easily by 10, but it doesn't divide easily by 9.
Hmm.
I don't
Should
think
be
it's-
300, there should be 300 members, 30 members per precinct. Well, so it'd be it should be 30 members per precinct, 10 for each year, should be 270 total. That's my opinion.
All right, but it's not right now.
I like that.
It makes it, by having it less, it makes it a little bit more onus to actually serve and show up.
Well, I'm looking back to December of 2020. Terry had emailed regarding town meeting attendance, and at that time, October 2020, which was a Zoom meeting, had the best attendance, 71%. We had 213 members in attendance out of 302 elected town meeting members.
Yeah, because everybody could stay home.
So in the years that we had at that point, which was June 2018, so 2018, 2019, 2020, that Zoom was the best. The first Zoom, which actually took place in August, because we weren't prepared to do it in June, was 186 out of 301, so 62%. In person, October 2018, it was our lowest at 52%, 155 out of 298.
Right, 155 out of 298 elected, but 155 out of 390 available seats.
Right.
Right.
That's what, so three,
Right, so there's an inherent problem. Part of the problem is this. Number one, your June town meeting It happens on a work day. Not everybody can show up. Number two, it happens at the middle school. Terrible parking. Move it to a Saturday when there's no school, you'll get better things. The October meeting is held at the high school, better parking because school's not in and it's in the evening.
Well, based on
Our
this-
meetings have been shorter. I mean, the
last
charter
town
doesn't
meeting we
say it
had
has to
was-
be at 9 in the
Right.
morning. Why
Right,
don't we
the last
do-
town meeting we had was at 9 AM. We were done by lunch.
Right. Several of them.
So in the charter, it does not state the time of the meeting. It just states the dates of the meeting.
Little musical interlude.
Yeah,
That was my fault, sorry.
So going back to the math, that 152 who showed up, that's 39% of 390 members positions.
so we wouldn't have been able to
Have a quorum.
hold it if it was total seats.
Correct.
We had 390 people elected. If there were 390 actual filled positions, no, you would not have been able to hold the meeting.
Right, so if the select board has 5 members and you required a quorum, it's not the majority of the members that are, so say somebody were to resign in midterm, or 2 people resign midterm, 2 members wouldn't make a quorum. You still need 3. So town meeting, because our chart is written differently, it's unusual that quorum is the number of members elected, not the number of seats. Which is why 390 is ridiculous. It's just, we're never, ever anywhere near there. Sounds like we got to stretch just to get 300 if we put your number in, Sean.
I still think you've got some precincts that are overrepresented. There are fights for the seats. And limiting the number in those precincts will turn some people away. So I do like the idea of at-large, if that could be added, so those people can participate. And I don't know, it's a thought. You have some precincts that nobody's elected and others where there's a contest.
It's an interesting
It's,
thought. Because 8 and 9 are always very well represented, right?
Yes.
and I think our biggest concern still is precinct 3, which is the university and a small amount of non-university neighborhoods.
Which I believe currently has 0.
And that's another interesting thought, Steve, because if we reduce the number of meeting members per precinct and everybody that's in 8 and 9 show up at these meetings, we're gonna have even less people present at the town meetings. So that's an interesting thought. So say you have, I don't know, say you have 20 whatever from precinct 9, now you're only gonna have 10, you're losing 14 members who show up regularly. And I'm making up the number, but just for an example.
Well, this seems like an area that is worthy of further study by an outside agency.
I had looked into this a few months ago when we first talked about it. Dartmouth is the largest in the state for representative town meeting at 390. And the Secretary of State's office recommends a maximum of 240.
The other option is just while we're on the topic is to consider an open town meeting. That's another option.
Does anybody know why it was 390? Why they came up with that?
Yes, because it was 39 members and we had 10 precincts initially.
Oh, okay. So now we have 9, is that correct? 9 precincts?
Yes.
I know this is gonna be a dumb question, but what is the quorum on an open town meeting? You just set a number?
You just set a number.
Okay.
We do, yeah, you just said it. We do that in Swansea and for the fire districts. You pick 25 or 50. You can actually.
Yeah.
So an open town meeting would do away with the election?
Yes. Anybody that
Okay.
wants to come can come as long as they're a registered voter.
As long
It
as
has
what? Sorry.
pluses and minuses. One of the minuses is if you have something in particular that's, say, really important to, I'll just use as an example, because Sean was on the school committee, to schools, then it may get packed by parents because they're more interested and they may show up and vote for a new school, whereas the elected members might not be so in favor of spending that kind of money. So that's the one argument against open town meeting, is that it will get packed with special interests.
Mm.
And the other problem is, as we've seen in Westport, the place is crowded. That vote is taken and then there's just a vacuum as everyone leaves the room.
Correct.
It's the business, so.
And then, and if you're really smart, what we had in Swansea is we had that issue and everybody left the room and somebody intentionally voted against it, knowing that they can, within an hour later, move to reconsider, and all those in favor left the room, and
I've had that experience.
and they had a
as well.
strategy that everybody was against it stayed.
That's very
clever.
strategic.
Yes.
It is.
A lot of stuff.
So
It worked
are
'cause
we
it picked up a
suggesting
lot of
perhaps,
people.
are we suggesting perhaps that the Collins Center talk about this whole concept of how many people elected, not elected, and what the trend seems to be?
I'm sure they would have that information, yeah.
Yeah, I would think they would already, without even doing very much.
John, was your last town open or representative?
Open.
And was there a general satisfaction with it, or people were unhappy with it?
Yeah, I mean, interestingly enough, I think if this was an open town meeting in Dartmouth, you'd probably have all the current town meeting reps would show up. I don't think you'd have many more people that would show up because they're not elected. I think the people that want to be involved get involved,
Get involved.
particularly in town. There's so many town meeting reps here in Dartmouth that anybody can be a town meeting rep pretty much.
And
Right, unless there's one particular issue that's on that somebody can drum up support. You know, it typically involves schools or recreation, or, you know, I don't know, maybe.
And do we know if any of the towns like prescribe that thing that Anthony covered, where they wait until people leave that are for it and then reconsider it? They must have run into that too, to prescribe something from that happening.
Yep, I've seen that happen in my experience as well, so.
But I guess what I'm asking is, could the Collins Center tell us if anybody has any remedies for that? Because it's a common thing that happens and not representative of everybody who showed up at the meeting and left previously.
No, the only remedy for that is to tell everybody, hey, this can be reconsidered for an hour. So if you're really
Yeah.
serious about this, we recommend that you stay.
Stick around.
That's really it.
Okay, that sounds reasonable.
Let me just look at 2.6, that's where we left off. And if you scan down your document to 2.9, this is not a hold, I'm just pointing out that in the document, it does state the first annual town meeting shall be held on the first Tuesday of the month of June and shall primarily be primarily concerned with the determination of matters involving expenditure of town funds, including but not limited to the adoption of an annual operating budget for all town agencies. The second annual town meeting shall be held on the third Tuesday in October. So in the charter, it's specific to those days. It does not say time of day. So certainly I think if our concern is that the June town meeting, people cannot take that day off, it doesn't say it has to be held in the morning.
And,
Well,
you know,
I would take it.
it never used to even have a date, but way
Yeah.
back in the early 2000s, I'm trying to think how to say this. Way back in the early 2000s, it was always waited till the last minute for them to determine when the town meeting was going to be. So some town meeting members got angry and said, we're going to make you do it. So
But I
stop, you know,
do think-
stop sitting on it.
I do think having it during the day is difficult for people that work and difficult in the current 2 locations because of the parking situation. So if it is in the evening, when we've done that at the town, it could be either the middle school or the high school, at least the parking lots are vacant and town meeting members can come in.
By the way, I do want to also point out that this is late. June is late. Most town meetings happen in May.
In May.
I think one of our other objectives should be to figure out how to foster the most participation as possible, which would be, I think, on the weekends. Unless, I think I've heard some people say that weekends are not good either.
I think people would rather miss the week than take a weekend off. If it's a nice if it's a night, I mean, in June, if you're a parent, your kids are in sports. The weather's turning nice. You got soccer, baseball, lacrosse.
October, the same thing. And the interesting thing is if we did it at the Dartmouth High School, we're competing then on a Saturday in October with the DYSA soccer fields parking because they're in the high school parking lot. I certainly see some
And band and
benefits,
football.
but I also see some hindrances. So I
None of those
certainly think
None of those problems with remote meetings, though.
Well, yeah. Or
I usually agree with Sean McDonald on everything, but this is one thing I'm not necessarily in agreement on.
I mean, you could make it.
Maybe it's selfish of me, but I hate Saturday. I hated that Saturday meeting.
So maybe you could do it specifically to say a hybrid meeting. To have part online virtual meeting and also, which is what you're doing now, I believe.
No,
Have people in present, no?
no, for town meeting, it's one or the other. It would be very difficult to do a hybrid town meeting, just logistically.
Small meetings are difficult hybrid. It's really hard to hear. Sean McDonald, do you think if we do it at night in June or at May, it would be?
Night meetings would be advantageous for people who work. I want a Saturday meeting so I can get out of housework.
Do we
All
know
right, so-
why there's 2 annual town meetings? I mean, even in this definition here, it just says the second annual town meeting shall be held. The first one, it says what it should cover. The second one, it doesn't say anything.
Right. I mean, and let's put it this way, you start a meeting, I mean, the way things have been going, leave me alone. If you start a meeting, we've started at 9, we're out by 12. So if you started by 7, we're out by 10. And they even after 10, even after 9 o'clock in the evening, the meeting acumen, the paying of attention kind of goes away. And you start seeing a lot of older town meeting members leave.
I don't stay up till 10
Right. Well,
any
yeah,
night. So
I can't start at 5. Why does it have to start?
you can
so
start
late?
at 6. 6 is probably the optimum time. And then you can get your 3 hours in, no problem. The only problem is if, you have to kind of tailor the warrant to, so many articles, because if you go back to the old days where we used to have 30, 40 articles, then you're going to have to go to another night. And then you have a problem of getting, a quorum the next following night.
It's also unusual that we've had these town meetings without any zoning articles, because pretty much every town meeting, there used to be at least 1, usually 2, and sometimes 3 zoning articles, and they take time.
Right, that's
haven't
because
seen
the
that
planning board's
lately.
not doing their job.
Chris,
this
you
is
didn't
being
laugh.
recorded, John.
Any possibility of requiring more than 2 town meetings?
It's a
It
special
might-
town meeting, the select board can call it any time.
In
No,
my
but I
note,
mean, in the charter, it says 2 specifically, and then a special. Maybe you want to increase it to 3, so you get less to cover in each of the meetings. I don't know.
You can always call a special town meeting,
Yeah.
even for.
That's not-
one item.
Well, the way a lot of towns do it, if they're doing it nighttime, is you go either week to week or night to night till it's concluded. So you always post it that way. oftentimes the goal is to finish it in the first night. Again, I just bring up Swansea because that's, you know, a town I represent. They do night meetings. And they usually get it done in one night.
We, have
But
we
then
ever,
I've heard from some council like Karis, Sean, Karis has a town that she just goes 5-6 nights sometimes.
And my previous
So-
town would do 2 or 3 nights, but they only had 1 annual town meeting. They didn't have 2.
does Dartmouth go into the second night or whatever, or second
We
day?
have in
or-
the past,
We have in the past, yeah.
but when I look back at my notes, Terry, if I hate to put you on the spot, but you
Well,
had
we're putting
made,
you on the spot.
but I'm putting you on the spot. I have a note that said Terry FinCom 3 times instead of 2, setting the budget in June, CIP in October, and then I have February, but I wrote nothing next to it.
That came up when David was chairperson, Doug Roscoe brought it up for the reason that Brian gave, which is to try to spread the agenda over. So for example, that would be in the spring, you do budget, the special town meeting could be zoning or other articles. And then the fall, we use the fall for capital because we wait until the free cash is certified to know how much is there and what's been done in the spring and, you know, what's coming up in the fall. So the fall and the spring are pretty clear, but as Anthony said, there are things that come up on the agenda that tend to take time. And the thought was, if we just regularly scheduled 3 meetings, we could have shorter meetings and address issues. The other issue that came up at that time is that there were things that had to be covered by a certain deadline. And it really crammed the agenda for the meeting that we had scheduled. Having a meeting in the middle, I think one time the harbor master wanted to purchase a boat, Steve, was that, I forget
Yeah,
when, a
it
few
was-
years ago. And it came up in the middle of sessions and the thought was that could be something that could be addressed. You could save those things that were kind of irregular for that middle town meeting.
And we did have the means to
That
make
answer
the
your
purchase
question?
and then have it, I guess, sanctified by town meeting by transferring the money over. So that did work out in between meetings.
So I'm gonna say this is another thing that I'm putting on the Collins Center to give us some input as to times of meetings and number of meetings, but I do think in 2000, the original, it did not state, so that must have changed in 2010 to the first Tuesday of June and third Tuesday of October, because in 2000, it just says the first such meeting to be held during April, May, or June on a date to be determined annually, blah, blah, blah. And then it says the second one to be held September, October, or November, date to be determined annually. But I do hear concerns with having a meeting in June, because what we're voting on in June is the budget that starts July 1st. And that doesn't give a lot of wiggle room if there's no quorum or if there's some changes that need to happen. So I can see that June may be a little bit late for something with so many financial impacts.
Heidi, is there a reason why it is June versus May? Because of reporting maybe from the state, or is there any data that is required in order to push it into June?
I think at some point in time, there was the revenue coming from the state being reported out. Because they had a history of having their House budget and Senate budget going all the way, you know, sometimes into August. They're not doing their job. So I think the June was seeing as to where mostly all that information was coming from, and we would have pretty much a very good idea where those numbers were so that the budget could be set.
It seems to me also, there's an issue of when certifying free cash happens. Which is essentially,
That's usually
Sorry?
done by, that certified free cash is usually done 30 to 45 days after the close of the fiscal year.
Yeah.
So that's not an issue. Usually by the middle of August, we know what.
That's most important. That's most important for the fall, right? That's done in time for the fall meeting, so we know what money is
Right.
available to fund capital.
The state is good about that. That's about the only thing that they are good about.
Well,
I-
Sean,
I just jotted down a couple of other things, Heidi.
Okay,
As far as the 2 to 3 meetings go, what I wouldn't want is, I wouldn't want the meetings to get watered down because we're adding an additional one over concern of overburdening one particular meeting because of issues that come up. And I wouldn't want to water it down so we start to lose participation because they went to the second meeting and there really wasn't much going on and they didn't feel like they participated. And there wasn't really anything of meat to really talk about at that particular meeting. So that's a concern. If we're worried about participation, I think we'd lose some potentially.
I mean,
Um,
you would get a good representation at the June meeting because of the budget. Everybody's interested in the budget. Everybody's interested in what's going on as far as free cash goes. If you have a separate town meeting for zoning issues, I'm not saying zoning is so exciting that everybody wants to see it, but I'll be honest with you, the vast majority of town meeting members kind of get lost when it comes to zoning issues.
Yeah.
Well, that's
and
why I think if you have your June town meeting or spring town meeting during the day, maybe it's better to just have one annual town meeting to include everything. And you can, a lot of these towns that have multiple days, it's because they start at night and they can only do, 4 or 5 hours tops. If you did one annual town meeting, you would get better participation, I think. And you would cover all the articles and you could do it throughout the course of the day. So you take a break for lunch and worst case, you're into the evening.
And
So
as far
we
as
wouldn't
zoning
know free
articles go-
cash?
as far as zoning articles go, I wouldn't want to do it at, say, specific zoning articles in February. First of all, number one, because of the weather, you never know you're going to get the ability to get to where you want to go. And two, there are some things in zoning that needs to happen fairly quicker than just once a year. And you got 2 town meetings, 6 months apart, roughly, that, 4 months apart, that you can do your zoning, in a timely manner.
And let's not
So
forget,
I-
we've got the special town meeting also.
Right. And then anytime that happens.
Right.
So Chris, you had some other points that you had jotted down?
It was just the special town meeting that, the select board could pull that trigger at any time. If there
Yeah.
was, zoning matter that came up that needed attention right away or whatever the case may be. I would just be concerned about participation if we go beyond 2.
Okay,
and I would be concerned if you only had one, because
Right,
then you'd have to have it probably on a Saturday
right.
to get enough participation. So I think Sean's idea of asking, or somebody's idea of asking the Collins Center what other towns do, we can't be the only ones with this sort of problem or issue.
Right, and just remember, every town is unique too, so, like I said, I know an attorney who has a town about the size of Dartmouth, and they go 6, 7 nights, and they talk ad nauseum about every fire truck they purchase and every police car they purchase, and, I mean, Dartmouth doesn't do that, thank God. I've been to Swansea, one Swansea town meeting, my first one there, where nobody questioned any article. I was like, holy cow, we went through 40-something articles in like 2 hours.
oh, wow.
Dartmouth's somewhere in the middle. We tend to have topics that pop up often. It's ones you don't even anticipate will engender the discussion. Sometimes you expect an article is going to engender a lot of discussion and even legal issues that I'll spend time preparing for, and then there's not one question. And then an article you don't expect, people will talk about for a half an hour. So it's hard to guess, but I think the town meeting goes pretty smoothly typically.
Well, I'm looking at our time and we had moved to 11 because there's an event for Greg Barnes happening at noon at the town hall today, noon to 2. So I want to wrap this up, and it's okay if we don't get to this next part, because this is a little bit, this was about town meeting warrants, which is 2-11. So, and this goes back to posting on bulletin boards, like the old fashioned way. So this was a question is, you know, the bylaw requires publication on the town hall bulletin board by an officer of the police department. I mean, that's rather antiquated, and it's possible that does not happen. It's possible that
No, it
Sarah
does.
Rudick-
It does.
It does? Oh,
It's in the
gosh.
charter, so she does it, but we talk about whether it's really necessary, but she just follows the rules.
Good. And then in this, in my notes, what we were talking about was noticed working backwards from the date of town meeting to when we have to like publish the town meeting. So when we need to publish that warrant, when we need to initiate items for the warrant, and it's listed in here, but where is it posted? How do we make sure people know if you want something on the warrant, what to do? That was, when I looked back, those were the big questions that had come up when we were initially discussing this.
Yeah, we have a town calendar the clerk puts together that has all the dates when things are due for our town meetings.
But one of the things we talked about was having some sort of precinct message page for town meeting members. And we talked a lot about, town meeting members opt in or opt out when they swear in at the town clerk's office to get their packet delivered by email instead of snail mail. I'm just looking back to see.
I can tell you, I just finished an annual meeting at one of my properties. I have 46 unit owners. We've gone to a portal type system where everybody's in. And I sent out the annual meeting information, the budget, the financial report for the previous year, sent it all via portal. Before the meeting, I went to check to see how many people actually opened up their email. Of the 46, I had 8 who didn't. And to be honest with you, I sent it out in 2 separate packages. It wasn't the same 8. Some people, but there were 4 who had not opened up their email at all. And one of them I know is a constant habit. He never opens up his email, and I'm always after him for paying his fees anyway, because he doesn't open up his invoices. So, but that's given. I've already know that to mail him, but everybody else. So it's, you may end up having to do that, where you're going to have a certain percentage. But I think, personally, I think all town meeting information should be sent via email.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I think you could have folks opt in or opt out when they're elected.
Well, it would save us. I'm
Yeah,
honest with you, you should find out how much the package costs, and then you multiply it by 300, and that's significant amount of money.
To me, that shouldn't be the determinant. You should have transparent government. You should have as many people participating as you possibly can. And you could just easily have people opt in or opt out like you do on a commercial site, and whether you want to get emails or you get a snail mail packet.
You have to fix the email system on the website if we do that, because I'm signed up to get notifications from several departments that I never get an email. Doesn't go to spam, so there's something missing in that department.
Yeah, well, our new website will have that better functionality. That we contact the company about that's an existing issue with the existing website. Just they don't maintain it anymore.
I'll just chime in on the portal idea though, with the planning board. Since I've been on there, they they started using the portal, and they don't actually email the packages out any longer, or I don't even know if they did. But I know that they had to print up the plans and they had to get your package together, and you had to go up to town hall and you had to get the package. And it must have been costly as heck to get those packages together for a relatively small board. The portal's been great. It's one location. It's not sent to you by email. So you're actually using your user code and sign on. You're going on and you're seeing the exact same thing that every other member is seeing. And if you choose to print certain sections of it because you want to delve in a little bit more, you want to bring that part of the package to the meeting, you can do that. I think it's super convenient. It's got to save the town a ton of money, especially when you extrapolate over town meeting member numbers versus a planning board.
Well, was I on the school committee? The driver that used to go around from school to school picking up the school mail, he was the one delivering all the packages to the committee members. I stopped, me personally, I stopped that. I used to go in because and get my packet all the time because he also afforded me the ability to go talk to the superintendent at the same time. On the select board, we used to have police officers deliver it until Cressman stopped it. I think it was in 2013, maybe 2012, when we went to the email version, because I still have every single agenda and every single packet on my iPad going all the way back to 2013. So, and it's a whole lot better. As chairman of the board, I would print out the agenda period and have it on my desk. And that way I can look at the agenda as I scroll through the things on the iPad as the chair. As a committee member, I don't print anything out.
That's a good point, Sean. The archival issue is a good point also. You know, when you have something continued, you want to go back and look at it.
Yeah.
It's there. You can just go back,
Believe
shoot
me,
right
and
down.
I've gone back hundreds of times
Mm.
to look for things that it's like, I know we talked about this way back, you know, and that type of thing. And I mean, the access is a whole lot better for board members, you know, and even with town meeting members, you know, the thing is though, is that the computer system people have to be on top to make sure that this stuff is available and it's in some type of a manner where people can easily go to it.
I think you also have to consider the computer literacy of the town meeting members. And I don't know, but there is a sufficient number of gray-haired folks that may not want to have their packets deleted in terms of snail mail. So I would again suggest that possibly this is another topic for the folks at the Collins Center to see what other towns do. I'd want to see more data on what other towns do. And then you could make a determination of, you know, like if there's 50 towns, 80% of them send out everything via email.
I agree with you, Brian, but I can tell you this, in 20 years, that's not even going to be in play anymore. I mean, if my mother can manage the web without giving me heartburn, then yeah, anybody can do
Hey,
it.
but I don't think you can sit in a small group and preemptively say that everybody will do it via email, via electronic means, because it's not going to happen.
But certainly if people,
Let me just finish. Maybe 10 years from now, that might be the case, but right now, I don't think so.
but I think if we are giving people the option of opting in to,
Right.
it'll come about naturally.
Right.
Eventually, people will say that. But it also allows the residents to see what's coming up.
Yeah, I think it should be published. And I think opting in and opting out is a good solution because you're going to cut it down by a certain percentage. You're going to save money. And then eventually, when everybody gets computer literate and feels really comfortable, you're not going to be sending it out anymore.
Right.
I
Because
mean,
I
in snail mail.
feel bad as a town meeting member, but at the end of town meeting, and I take copious notes on my, in my packet, who spoke on an item, how the vote went. But in the end, when I was just a town meeting member, I'd be like, well, what am I gonna do with all this paperwork now? Throw it out. Whereas if it's, accessible, archival, and accessible, then I can go back.
This
I
is
wanna-
what.
I
Cycle, don't
want-
throw it out.
I want to remind
Recycle.
people too that when we had the Zoom meetings, Melissa took extraordinary time to set up practice sessions, did tutorials, other people helped with that, DCTV. So I think that was a good example of helping people get to where they need to get the information that they need. If there's people who need that, I think most people are going to be okay with it. But if you wanted to do it, maybe there's a process to put in place to help those people.
Or you could just transition it and let everybody know that in 5 years, you're not going to be doing it anymore. And they better if they want to be town meeting members, they have to have some sort of literacy.
John, you would probably know the answer to this. Does it happen quite a bit that packages change? Say they're delivered on a Tuesday, or say they delivered on a Monday for the Tuesday meeting. Have you had a lot of experience with changes in the package, things that warrants that were tweaked, and does it happen?
No, once they're sent out, they can't be tweaked. They'll be tweaked at the meeting
Yeah,
with someone who makes a motion to tweak something. But once it's been issued, it can't be tweaked, even if they've made a grievous error
Yeah.
on it. They have to announce it at the meeting that they've made an error.
Okay.
We are going way over everyone's lunch hour.
There's a party people want to get to.
Yes. So I am going to put a stop here because I don't want to rush through the rest of this.
Correct.
So when we meet again, and I'll talk about those meeting dates in 1 second, we will pick up at 2-12. We'll pick up at 2-12 at our next meeting. And hopefully we'll then go through Article 3. And Article 3 is about elected officers, and it's quite a big one. So let's just say we'll go through 3 the
Why don't
next
you
time.
just put 3 and 4 on the agenda, it'll be
Just in
easy, just in case we
Okay.
make some progress.
And I sent out dates and didn't get a lot of people who said these absolutely do not work. So
Yeah,
I
I'm gonna ruin this conversation with you because the 14th just became a problem. I got a court notice yesterday that I have to be in court. Sorry.
okay.
And I'm sort of problematical for October, so I won't know for another week or so.
Okay, so I have Anthony as being problematic on the 14th and the 21st.
21st, oh, shoot.
Oh, we had the 28th, Heidi.
You're
No.
not available the 28th?
No, I
Kevin?
thought the date that you sent out was the 28th, September 28th. No,
What? Yep, it is.
I had the 14th and the 28th.
Yes, and the reason we didn't pick the 21st is Anthony said he wasn't available.
I had 2 appointments that day.
So he's still not available. I'm just double checking that.
And are you definitely tied to Wednesdays?
Well, today is a Thursday. We were tied to Wednesdays only because that was the day that we were meeting in the evening, but how does everybody's Thursday, September 15th look?
I think my case might be a 2-day trial, so that's a problem.
I'm good.
I can do the 22nd.
I'm good.
I'm out of town on the 15th.
Okay,
I'm good for the most part.
all right. So what if we look at the Thursday, the 22nd and Wednesday, the 28th? Or
I'm
we
good
can
for
move it-
that. I'm good for 22nd.
Okay,
Heidi, you can, when we make our changes, would you just send something out to confirm it?
yes.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna put down the 15th, September 15th, which is a Thursday, the 28th, which is a Wednesday. Then we were
Oh, wait,
October.
wait a minute, the 15th, I thought we couldn't do that. What, I can't
Oh,
do it?
sorry, 22nd.
Okay,
Are we meeting on the 7th also?
No,
Yeah, the 7th, okay.
so now we're the 22nd and 28th. And then in October, I have October 12th, Wednesday, the 12th.
Heidi, I won't know about October for another week or so,
Okay,
but I'll get back to you like I did previously.
okay. I'll send out all these dates again. And you can just let me know.
and I'll try to get the Collins Center for either the 15th or the 22nd. Let's see what their availability is.
Not the 15th, the 22nd or the
Oh,
28th.
God, sorry, I wrote that. I know. I can't make it on the 15th either. The 22nd or the 28th.
Okay. So our next meeting will be the 22nd, and I'll send you those dates back out.
Okay, good.
Job,
All right.
Heidi.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, I
That's
need
all
to
right.
do,
Oh, we have to adjourn.
yeah,
I don't, I'm gonna leave, so I'll see
okay,
you guys.
so, all right,
I'll
thank you.
make a motion.
Thank you, Terry.
I second that motion.
Seconded by Brian. Sean McDonald,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Steve Mello,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Terry. Yes,
Yes.
myself, yes, and still no Mary. All right. Have
right.
a good couple of weeks. We'll see you on Thursday, September